dedicated to empowering you with information
to make positive choices
and be advocates for your overall well-being.
Welcome to The Health View. Welcome to The Health View. This is Yvonne Dunitz. This program is dedicated to you, to help you to get the best information that we can provide to you so that you can live a great quality of life, healthy and well. And I am so delighted to be here with you. I have over 30 years experience in the healthcare field, and my mission has always been to empower people with information and to give them the resources that they need so that they can feel strong, that they can feel encouraged, and they can be empowered in their own health and wellness and realize that they are responsible for their own healing. This program, each time that we get together, will talk about different topics in the healthcare field so that we can give you information, so that we add to your tools, we support you in every way that we can, and we help you and your families have the best possible life that we can. We want you to participate with us. So this program will be interactive. And how it's interactive is in this way. After each program, you can email us at info@YCD Holistic Healing. And at that time, when you do that, you write your questions that you have about the program that we're doing, or if there are certain topics that you would want to make sure that we address, please do that, because we're going to follow up in each program answering your questions. And if it turns out that you have loads of questions, don't be dismayed if we can't answer all of them in the next program, but we promise you we'll get to it, because we want you to be here with us and we want to help you in the best way possible. And I feel very blessed today because I have on each side of me two colleagues that I am delighted to have this opportunity to do this program with, because I know that you're going to appreciate them as much as I do. And they are both skilled and experienced and have a wealth of information. I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Laura Chan. Dr. Chan is a naturopath and an acupuncturist. To my other side is Dr. Margarita Ochomaya. And Dr. Ochomaya is an endocrinologist and an internist. And to begin this program, we're going to be starting with the foundations of health. But before we get into that, I'm going to have each of our wonderful doctors talk about how their information related to their training so that you understand what a naturopath does, and an acupuncturist is, and an endocrinologist and internist. And then you'll be ready and raring to go with our dialogue. So welcome to our program. I'm so delighted that you are with us. And Dr. Chan, please tell our audience about what you do.
I will. Thank you, Yvonne. I'm so excited for this opportunity to share our expertise with people. So I'm trained as both a naturopathic doctor and an acupuncturist. I originally wanted to be a medical doctor when I was younger. My whole life I thought I would do that. And it was my personal experience with illness that led me another direction. As a last resort, when I was ill in college, I ended up seeing a naturopathic doctor, and I didn't even know what that was at the time. And I also went to an acupuncturist, and both of those providers helped me tremendously. So when it was time to apply to medical school, I thought, I'm going to try what was helpful for me. And I ended up going that direction. So through the course of my training, the best way to describe what a naturopathic doctor is it's a type of doctor who is a specialist in integrative medicine. So specifically, a naturopathic doctor is trained in modern science and all the evidence-based medicine available, as well as the wisdom of healing traditions. And so the combination of those is what I like to call integrative medicine. And that's what naturopathic doctors do well. We're trained in nutrition, preventive medicine, botanical or herbal medicine, and a variety of other modalities that we'll get into over the course of this show. I have a separate training as an acupuncturist, and that comes from the tradition of Chinese medicine. And that is a separate training here in the United States, and it's one that I use about half the time in my practice to address a variety of conditions, from pain to digestive problems to hormonal imbalances to sleep and so on. And it can be a very powerful therapy.
That's wonderful and such a great addition to this show. And so I thank you so much for being here and being part as a co-host of this real great adventure that we're on. Dr. Ochaman, tell us about you.
So I am a doctor, I am an MD, I specialize in hormones, but in order to become a hormone specialist, I had to do internal medicine. So truly, it's a traditional learning process through which I became an MD. Once I became an MD, I've been in the field for the last 23 years. And upon looking at my profession, what I had started to see was that I wanted to dedicate into the doctor-patient relationship. And I totally embrace and love naturopathic care. And, we share common values in very many forms. But as an endocrinologist, we specialize in hormones. And the typical hormones are usually the ovarian hormones or the thyroid hormones, and then, of course, diabetes and obesity. But we look at it, I take it a step further. I look at it from the biopsychosocial model. So what that means is that I look at the body as a biological part or machine. But on the other hand, we also have to take into consideration our emotions and how we feel and the psychology of living, and how we react to our environment, how we react to other people. And then bringing that level deeper is to how you actually relate within yourself. So your own spirituality, your own relationship with yourself, self-esteem, understanding your relationship within a community, that we're all part of one big collective. And then lastly, putting it all together by learning and helping my patients, empower them to learn more about their condition. And therefore, by putting all those parts together, we take care of the whole person. And so that's why I think we are a great team.
It's a wonderful thing. And I know that in my work, one of the things that I have known for so long as a master's in social work, I continued my training in a holistic approach to make sure that I learned a variety of the different tools that we can share. And in a sense, some call it complementary, alternative to medicine. But I believe that our human beings are so special and we are whole, and that incorporates our mind, our body, and our spirit. And as we have our own individual fingerprint, we also have our own individual history. And we are who we are today because of our history, all the people in our lives, the choices that we've made, the experiences that we have. And each and all of that plays a part in how we feel, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And some people will have physical symptoms, which in fact, when they are examined and many tests are done, they realize that it comes and stems from an emotional or mental, emotional or spiritual basis. And I think that is critically important because we do not have good health unless we have mental health. Absolutely. It's just not about physical health. And I think our combination in our approach here will really help our audience to thrive. And we had wanted to start today in the beginning of this wonderful program to talk about functional and fundamental and the foundations of health. So I'd like to start with Laura. And if it's okay, we know you're Dr. Chan.
Please call me Laura.
I'm going to call you Margarita because our audience, you'll feel more like you're involved with us on a personal basis, and that's just what I'd like you to be. You know the credentials and everything. Now you be part of it. So talk about the foundations of health.
Absolutely.
What does that mean?
I'm going to take a step back and explain why I think that's important in our system of medicine. So sometimes I'll explain to my patients that if we're looking at all the possible ways that you can get treated by a doctor, I like to create a pyramid scheme for that. And up at the top, we have surgery, we have medications, which are very useful in the right time and place, no doubt about it. And down here at the bottom of this pyramid, we have the foundations of health. And in this bottom, what makes up wellness and well-being are how we eat, how we live, our stress, if we exercise, what our relationships are like at home, the air we breathe, the environment that we live in. All of those things play a huge role in our health and well-being. And while absolutely medications and surgery have their time and place and are necessary, if these aren't in place, we're going to see more chronic illness. And I'm very concerned that this piece gets missed in a lot of visits to practitioners. And so I really want to focus on this in our show and spread awareness about things people can do for their own health and wellness and for their families, because there's so much to be learned about self-care, and it really just creates the basis for well-being, even if you need to use the other aspects of medicine. These need to be in place.
They're a combination. They go together.
Absolutely.
And learning how to integrate them to support yourself and figure out what you need. A lot of people don't know what to do.
Right.
They don't know where to go for information. They may be told one thing here, one thing there, and one thing here, and sometimes it contraindicates each other, and it contradicts, and they're like, what do I do?
And one thing here might be useful for one person, whereas the one thing here might be appropriate for another person.
Exactly.
So it's helpful to have an expert help you tease through it and figure it out for yourself.
Sure. And Margarita, from your perspective, Foundations for Health.
Foundation, we focus greatly on the gastrointestinal system, and we work greatly on our immune system. And the immune system is actually how we react to our foreign things that come within our body. So similar, like where you were talking about mental health, or you were talking, I think, and then you would focus even more, and I'll work with you in terms of how the environment, and it will be including Mother Nature, and then. Of course, with Dr. Gould, for example, I'd like to bring that up for us three to have a talk about it. I think that looking up your condition can be healthy, but on the other hand, my biggest concern is to make sure that you have proper information, that what applies to your best friend, what applies to somebody you know and talk about, doesn't necessarily apply to you. And so the more empowered, the more our community understands their intricacies, our society comes a little bit back into within themselves and starts becoming part of understanding what their body is telling them and how to reach the doctor, the provider, the counselor, whoever you think will be helpful, and at the same time even ask for help, would be to empower yourself to get at it sooner rather than later. So a further emphasis on prevention.
And I think with the information that we'll be providing, it will help people to become more experts as to what is natural for them, what is normal for them, so that when they do have to seek care, they're able to say to the provider, this is what's normal, this is what's not. But in our everyday situations, people are so busy, sometimes they've lost touch with how they really feel. How many times do you just walk around and you might be sick and not feeling well, and somebody asks you, how do you feel? And you say, good, thank you.
Right.
Where in effect, you're really fine, right? Where in fact, you're really not. You're really not inwardly, or things are going on. So I'm hoping that we will also be able to provide information for people so that they can become experts in their own awareness in their body. Now,
I was just going to say, there's no one-size-fits-all for wellness.
Exactly.
And when people come to me and want me to recommend a healthy diet, what I recommend for one person might be very different what I recommend for someone else. And similarly, for stress management techniques, for instance, someone might love yoga and meditation, and that might not be suitable for someone else. They might find it too boring to do that, and so they might prefer learning something else for themselves. And so I think it's important that we acknowledge that there's so many different ways to take care of ourselves.
And there are, and that's the beauty of it all. And right now, at this time, one of the things we do know more than anything, I think, is that food is good medicine.
Absolutely.
And that what we eat is what we are, right?
Absolutely.
And we're at a perfect time of year, being summertime, because it's fresh vegetables, fresh fruits, fresh everything. Let's talk about why food is good medicine. Which one wants to jump in first here?
Well, most importantly, we renew ourselves pretty much on a continuous basis. Not one single cell in our body is a static. We are always in the quest of reproduction. We're always in the quest of, our body is an ever-changing, beautiful, beautiful machine. And so when we look at what is it that we put, I actually use the example of a car.
Right.
Some cars are like a Prius would have a different kind of energy fuel as compared to a diesel, 16-wheeler. And trying to understand the metabolism of the individual and knowing that all of that stems from what you're feeding yourself, and that what we do usually 3 times a day is I can't say the most important, but it is pretty much on the very high echelon of our health. So I totally agree. What do you think, Laura?
Oh, absolutely. I also use the car analogy sometimes, which is, it's true because, you can have a beautiful, high-quality car, but if you put really low-quality fuel in it, it's not going to run properly. And so it's the only 2 ways we really fuel ourselves. It's the air we breathe and the food we eat. And we want those to both be really good quality because the energy we have, the cells that repair themselves in our body, they can only use the fuel that we give them, and that's from what we're eating typically.
I'll further that kind of really important part where I know it's really also with our thoughts. So very importantly, I want to say,
That's a great
as
point.
much as food, and I love food, but you really want to have that, try it. And that's really what we're representing.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So positive thoughts have a very important component related to our whole outlook on life and how we move forward in the journey of life as we take it one day at a time. In taking that analogy of the car, which I always take also, it's not just the food also, because what do we know about a car? And that is this, that if we don't take good care of it, if we don't take it for its oil change, if we don't take it for service, if we don't take it at the mile markers that it needs to be in order to be working in the best possible way, what happens if we haven't checked our tires, if we haven't done this and that? So what happens is our vehicle of a car does not work out as best as we could have it. It's the same with our vehicle of our body. We really only have one body. And so we have to take the best care of it as we possibly can. So from a food as a good medicine point of view, what are the things that we'd like to be able to share with our audience now, today, to help them to take a different look at how they go to the grocery store, the things that they choose to eat, how they go about? I know that we take one day at a time, one step at a time, and helping informing people with good information helps them to take, even if it's little changes, step by step. So what would each of you like to offer related to information regarding food and taking excellent care of what our listeners can start to do?
Sure. One basic thing that I'll often tell people is when you walk into a grocery store, perimeter shopping is a way to take a very initial step towards making sure you're making better choices. And what I mean by that is if you stick on the edges of the grocery store where we have the produce, the fruits and vegetables, the meats and the eggs and the dairy products, all around the edge are more whole foods based. Whereas when you're in the aisles of the grocery store, you're often getting more processed food. So it can, depending on the market you go to, of course, it may not totally apply, but that's a guideline that I've heard before that can be a place to start in terms of stick with the produce and the vegetables. Now, in that category, one thing I always like to inform my patients about is something that I call the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. And this is a list that you can Google very easily, the Clean 15 Dirty Dozen, and it lists the fruits and vegetables that have the least amount of pesticide spray, and then the fruits and vegetables that are in the Dirty Dozen list, which have the most amount of pesticide spray. And there's a lot of debate that I hear about whether or not one should buy organic or local. What I tell my patients is this. In the list of the Dirty Dozen, choose organic for those. And it's worth spending a little bit of extra money on organic in the Dirty Dozen list because you can dramatically reduce the amount of pesticides that you're exposed to. And in a later show, perhaps we can talk about the health effects of pesticides.
We will.
But just in general, now I recommend choose organic for the Dirty Dozen. And then if you want to save some money, don't feel obligated to choose organic for the Clean 15 list.
And you know, some people believe that they don't need to wash their fruits and vegetables. Now, I've known for a very long time, wash everything. Make sure you're in agreement with that
I do
too.
agree with
Because I
that.
think it's
Absolutely.
important that people take those steps. And how about for you? Your recommendations related to food and shopping for food and beginning to have another look perhaps at the grocery store or the market.
Well, I'd like to bring back to the fact that what I do most is diabetes care and weight management.
Sure.
And so as much as I just love what you said, I would actually just simply echo what you said, but I'd like to add one more tone to it is if we could invite our viewers to look at their relationship with their food.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So trying to understand food as nourishment, food as its primal, really very important concept, looking at the environment, all the power to that. And I will add further that, you know, if you have been growing up in an environment, let's say if we're Italian, and then we have lots of pasta. And so that would be a cultural relationship with the food. And then the other concept would be if I like to indulge in certain ice cream when I get stressed out. And so ultimately that concept is trying to bring it back, to give it just some thought and be able to say, really, maybe I don't need the ice cream, maybe I'm doing that because I have some other issues that maybe I need to explore. And it's a very gentle, we always have to come at it from a point of love and compassion, but that is something that our relationship with food is something worth addressing as well.
It's a very good point because what you're saying is also when we eat, if we have the thought that we're eating to fuel ourselves, and we pause and become conscious about if we're taking food just to take it versus to feed and to satisfy hunger. And then to be able to be aware in our bodies of when enough is enough to eat. But if there's stresses in life, a lot of people will eat as a soothing to help them to deal with it. And you were going to just say something.
You both made such good points. And along those lines, not just what we're eating and how we're eating. Are we eating in front of a computer screen when we're stressed? Are we eating while we're driving? And some people might not eat until 3 p.m. and they've skipped breakfast and lunch. And so not just the type of quality of food we put in our bodies, but how and when we do so is very important as well.
You're covering a topic which is also another wonderful thing about us being together, and that's mindfulness. Mindful eating. Being able to really enjoy a meal and taste a meal. When you look at our culture, you see people eating so fast they don't even taste the food that they eat. And to be able now, even for the listeners and the audience, wouldn't it be great for you to try an experiment? Tonight or tomorrow, go out, and when you decide to prepare a meal, when you shop for it, think of what you are going to put into your body and make it the healthiest food that you can, things and food that you enjoy. And put a tablecloth on the table. Maybe put some flowers on the table so you celebrate each other and you, and celebrate the fact that your eating experience is to celebrate you and to make you healthy and well. And then when you prepare it with the intent of loving kindness and that you're filling it with positiveness because it's a resource that's going to help you to thrive. And then when you sit down, either alone or with your family or your friends, take the time to look at the food, appreciate the food, admire the colors, the textures, the taste, and eat slowly. Take one bite at a time and taste it.
That makes me
And
think
enjoy
of my
conversation.
It does.
It's that loving embrace that we can all bring to our homes now.
Yeah.
And then really putting that mindfulness, I know by the intent and the love which you mentioned, it's already going to be healing, but I'm sure you have some.
Well, I do have a thought. When you were speaking, it made me think my husband is a chef.
Yes.
And he has told me that without a doubt, what his mood is reflected in his food, and he'll get feedback accordingly. He's told me that on days when he's happy and he's humming and singing as he prepares food, he will get so much more positive feedback about his meals than on the days he might be a little tired and not feeling quite as motivated to be cooking a lot of food that day.
See, that's the
So
energetic
it's
field.
really
the
interesting
positive
thought.
energetic field, you know, because we do how we feel and the energy and where we come from and our intent exudes. It's like negative energy. It's palpable. You walk into a room and there's been some trouble. You can feel it. But you can also feel positive energy. You can also feel when someone's intent is for the highest healing good.
Right.
And when you prepare a meal or food or even a delicious snack, and you've made it for your loved ones or yourselves, you know, because we have to start with loving ourselves first, right? And that's how we can love others. But when we prepare it with that whole aspect of, this is a wonderful thing that we're doing for ourselves, and we're really going to enjoy it, it makes a world of difference, a total world of difference. So from a summary related to food and the foundations for health, what would be the most important things that you'd like to leave our audience with today?
Well, I'll start with the fact that nature is definitely part of us, and we are part of nature. So I'll start with a little cheers for the environment, as we will be talking about the unhealthy effects and the endocrine and hormone effects of bad pesticides and things like that. So other than, of course, thinking of our nutrition, which I know you elaborate, I'd like to make sure we emphasize.
And you?
Absolutely. Well, I just believe so strongly in the power of food and its impact on our health and well-being. And I hope to emphasize that repeatedly in this show and give our listeners specific tools that they can use at home, because I am concerned that a lot of people might not know how to prepare food in a healthy way for themselves. So I hope we'll, over time, give more tricks, because that's very important.
Excellent. I want to thank you both for a wonderful show, and I'd like to thank our audience for being with us and let you know that please do go to info@ycdholistichealing.com and send us your questions, send us your topics that you'd like us to address. We are so excited to be here for you and to help give you information and to help you and your friends and your families live the best quality of life that you can, and to know that regardless of the stage that you're in, if you have disease, if you're unhealthy, if you need certain things, we're going to be here for you, and we're going to provide you with all the information we can. Have a wonderful day. We look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.